Hello, everybody. Welcome back Till the Whistle Blows podcast, last of the year. We're here in 2020. We're joined again by Mr. Carey, and if you're watching on YouTube, a special treat. We got both webcams working today. Carey, how are you doing?
Sam, I'm great. I'm happy to be here once again, and we got a lot of games coming down to the wire in terms of playoff seeding. It's kind of crazy. It's week 17 already.
I know, it's crazy. But before that, if you remember last week, Carey, I had you pick some basketball games.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Before we get into that, because a lot of basketball is going on too. Warriors are 0-2. By the way, you were 1-2 on that one. You got the Nets were correct. The Lakers sadly did lose opening night. I will talk about basketball later in the day. But I want to get some new picks for you. I picked out 4 games here. They're supposed to be the interesting ones. So I want to just get your thoughts on it. Go blindly here again.
So I'm 1-1 then, right? Because I only made 2 picks.
You made 2 picks, so you got 1 right, other one wrong. This is going to be here a good one to look for.
Okay.
So we've got the Bucks, Milwaukee Bucks, not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, versus the Miami Heat tonight. Who do you think is going to win that one?
And it's not the Ohio State Buckeyes either, right?
No, it's the Milwaukee Bucks. No football.
Okay. Bucks versus the Miami Heat.
Miami Heat versus the Milwaukee Bucks.
I'm gonna go with the Heat. I feel like they've been good over the years.
Now, something crazy that's going to happen in the NBA is the same 2 teams are actually playing again on the 30th. Who do you think will win the rematch?
I have to pick this again. Oh, geez.
Pick it again. Who's winning the day? So they play again on Wednesday.
You know what? I'm all in on the Heat now.
All in on the Heat.
I'm going too.
On New Year's Eve, we have the Phoenix Suns versus the Utah Jazz. Who do you think is going to take that one?
The Phoenix Suns versus the Utah Jazz. I'll take the Jazz on that one.
Alrighty. And the last game.
So I gotta represent Utah.
And then the last game, it's going to be the Los Angeles Clippers versus also again the Utah Jazz. That's going to be on New Year's Day. Who you taking?
I'll take the Clippers for this one.
Alrighty. So we got your picks in. I picked all the interesting ones that'll be coming up for the next week here, so we'll check again in on how your basketball picks.
This is like the most high-stakes part of the program now. I'm all nervous now.
I know. I think it's the best part. I'll talk about basketball later. We'll hit that stride a little later in the episode. But let's get into this now. We were talking about this from Sunday till to now. Week 16 has been wild here.
I mean, it's really, a lot of these playoff races, a lot of, these outcomes, they're really coming down to the wire at the end of the year here. And, it's a long season. And just when you think that, you have it figured out, it kind of throws you a curveball each and every week. So, and especially with that extra playoff spot now, it's really a lot of stuff is kind of up in the air yet. So, a lot to talk about and an exciting week for football. And when you said last podcast of the year, I also was like, oh my God, are you done recording? But no, it's just simply the year is about to end, which I also didn't realize. I just feel like 2020 has just thrown off my sense of time for everything. I don't know about you, but so we got the playoffs coming up. We got 2021 on the horizon, but as weird as this year has been, time keeps marching on, and I'm glad we were able to get a season in, relatively successful season, and hopefully we'll have a good finale on the way when it comes to the playoffs.
Yeah, hopefully we will. But like I said, I hope I didn't throw you off with that one. It is the last episode of 2020. We'll hopefully get into 2021 going in crazy after this week 17 matchups.
Yep.
So why don't we, speaking of that, let's get into the first one. On Christmas Day, we had the Vikings lose horribly to the Saints, 52-33. Drew Brees was not the anchor for this game. It was Alvin Kamara. He scored 6 touchdowns on the day. Could have been 7, but Sean Payton said, no, let Taysom Hill get some love. What do you think about that?
Yeah, Kamara had a day. By the way, Sam, do we know if it's Kamara or Kamara? I feel like I still don't know.
I feel like they say it every time. Like, they switch it up every week. They never have, like, a solid answer on that.
I feel like the announcers don't know either. They say both ways. So Kamara or Kamara, however you want to say it, absolutely had a day. 6 touchdowns on the ground. Pretty, I'm sure, very good day for those who started him in fantasy. Not so great a day for those who sat him. Drew was efficient, but like you said, those 2 picks on the day. But otherwise than that, he was efficient. I wouldn't say he had a bad day. And Latavius Murray, who I forgot was even on this team, also had a good day. I mean, with those 2 together, we're over 200 yards. So Good win for the Saints. Drew does, I think, even in this game, still look like he's still coming back from injury a little bit, but they've decided that that's the price they have to pay, and unfortunately, I think that's probably the good decision. I mean, it's even with a gimpy Drew, it's still a different team with him at the helm. They were able to slide by for a couple of weeks with Taysom Hill, but that's not what you want to do long term. The Vikings kept up for a little bit, but it just kind of ended up being a shootout, and they didn't quite have enough gas. Kirk Cousins actually had a pretty good day. Dalvin Cook was okay, not but by it still had a good day, but not the sort of day by his usual standards. But the Saints, they were good on defense. They got a lot of pressure on Kirk Cousins late in this game, and the Vikings defense really is just a lot of work at this point. I know Mike Zimmer early on in the year said that he's not worried about his defense because he's never had a bad defense, but he has a bad defense this year, and I don't know if it's opt outs or injuries or what, but they've certainly got some work to do going into the offseason.
They absolutely do. For the Vikings, this is a must-win game for them, sadly. Yes, as you mentioned, a lot of people, they lost Everson Griffin. They lost, they had to trade away Ngakoue.
Right.
They lost a lot of key players. They had one person drop out for this defense. So that's huge for this team. Can't really have that happening. But with that also, that's a big one to lose there. Also, you can't really let Alvin Kamara take 6 touchdowns on you like that. You cannot give all that up there. So it's going to be an interesting offseason for the Vikings now because they are officially eliminated from playoff contentions here.
Yeah, and it was really this bad start that Kirk Cousins had in this Gary Kubiak offense that really doomed them. I mean, they start off the season 1-5 with losses to the Packers, the Colts, the Titans, Seahawks, and the Falcons. Now, the Falcons was a bad loss. Packers, Colts, and Titans are good teams, but that Kirk was just not looking good early on the season, and after the bye, they seem to get back on track a little bit. Kirk Cousins has been much better in recent weeks, but really it was just this 1-5 start that doomed them this year. And
it was slow starts really got a lot of these teams here.
And Zimmer with the Vikings he's kind of alternated in playoff years and non-playoff years. So I guess the hope for them is that they're
next year will probably be different for them.
Yeah, but it's like we talked about it with the Rams. It's sort of one of these middling teams. They're not bad enough to get a good draft pick, but you don't really look at them and think of them as a team that's gonna dominate or win the Super Bowl. They're sort of in that 7-9, 9-7 territory, which is kind of where no one wants to be in the NFL because it's tough to fully move forward. You can't tear down the ship, but you can't really get past the hump either. So we'll see where they go next year with that. But that sort of feels like where they are right now.
So you know what? They're in the middle of the road. Mike Zimmer, he's a good coach. Hopefully he'll figure it out and they'll get them to the next step next year.
Yes, he is.
So Saturday now, we had the Detroit Lions, who were eliminated a while back, so this really didn't mean much to them, versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who were looking to just clinch their playoff spot, I believe, during this game. And my God, did they do it.
Well, there's nothing like there's no better way to get your passing game right than having to go against this Detroit defense, which has been suspect all season.
Yeah.
It was really just a clinic from the very beginning. Tom Brady was 22 of 27, there were 348, 4 touchdowns. Gabbert got in the mix too. Gabbert was good as well, threw 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and both quarterbacks only got sacked once on this one, it looks like, for 7 yards.
Yeah, and Mike Evans had a huge day, and Gronkowski had a touchdown reception from Gabbert. Yeah, I mean, again, and this was it was interesting. It's looking. We talked earlier about the marriage of Bruce Arians and Tom Brady, and whether Bruce would kind of lay off on some of this deep ball stuff, some of the play action down the field stuff, and the answer to that at this point is really no. I mean, looking at this game, this was a lot of play action and down the field and seams and the usual just kind of Bruce Arians deep routes, and it worked in this one, and they've had success with it at times against the lesser defense, but again, that historically has not been Brady's strength, so we'll see if that works against the playoff teams that are coming up. But he's not. I think at this point in the season, it's safe to say that he is still running this Bruce Arians down the field offense. Now, it's not the exact same offense he ran with Luck and Arian and Palmer and Winston, but it's more that than it is what Brady was running in New England. So again, it looked good in this game. Brady was sharp, but they've looked good against the lesser defenses all year. It's really hard to take anything away from a game where you're playing a Detroit Lions team that's just really waiting for their next head coach hire, and that's been left in ruins by Matt Patricia at this point. So, and then unfortunately for the Lions, they sort of they aggravated this Stafford injury here. Stafford's been gimpy, and he kind of convinced them to let him play, and then he goes out early in this game after aggravating the injury. So really similar to kind of what the Texans are doing with Deshaun Watson, kind of getting their star quarterbacks hurt for no reason here, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's sad to see that they're getting their guy hurt here, but clearly they want to get him some more reps in. 'Cause, they want him to stay sharp. They don't want to put false faith in him. So I guess I understand why they did it. It was a bad reason. He got hurt really bad early here, and it looks like Chase Daniel and David Blau had to step in.
Yeah.
Luckily for Matt Stafford here, he can easily sit out next week and not really worried about any. He honestly does not have to worry about losing his starting job here. I think the Lions are going to stick with him for another year or so and figure out what they want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think he's worried by any means. It's just it seems like
you never want to as a player, you never want to sit out a game. I'm assuming for them, so it's rough that he doesn't want to sit out, but he had to.
Right, I'm sure he wanted to play, but at the same time, you have to be smart here with your franchise quarterback. If this is a meaningless
You cannot go out and do stuff like that. When it comes to this team all around, I mean, the only thing that seems certain for this team is they have their tight end and their running back for the future with DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson. I feel like no one else is gonna be sticking around with this team anymore.
Yeah, even Hawkinson's underwhelmed a bit, and maybe that's just the nature of this Darrell Bevel offense.
He was supposed to come in as new Gronk for
I know
this
we
team.
haven't seen the new Gronk yet.
I think new Gronk is George Kittle at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this Lions team has way too many question marks, but you know what? They have a whole offseason to go in. They can figure out what they want to do, and hopefully they can get everything fixed.
They have a lot of work, and just back to the Stafford thing real quick. It's something you see, I think, with interim coaches because they're coach. They want the head coaching job, so they don't. They're not really thinking long term here.
Yeah, I know. I've already seen that the Falcons have interviewed now Raheem Morris for the job.
Right. So, yeah, this is just ugly. This is about as dominant a win or a loss as you'll see, and. Again, I don't want to be cynical here, but it's hard to take anything away from Tampa when it really their 10-5 record is just a result of them beating up on the bad team.
They're beating up on bad. This is what I was saying about the Steelers when we talked about their undefeated. They were beating up on the bad teams, and then when they had to hit a real challenge, they started faltering.
Right, and at least the Steelers beat the Ravens and have now beat the Colts. I mean, I don't know who Tampa's beaten that's good this year. So
they beat the Packers. They beat the Packers.
Right. I guess the Packers, who also struggle against good teams. So,
yeah,
again, it is their first playoff berth since 2007 when they lost to the Super Bowl winning Giants. I have to throw that in there. And actually they Matt Bryant was the kicker.
Matt Bryant was on the Tampa Bay Bucks for a long while.
So, but yeah, again, good for them. Glad that they got this passing offense going. But I think we're all still a bit cynical until we can see it. Against the playoff level competition.
And wild card weekend rolls around because they can no longer get that bye week.
Right.
We'll have to see what they can do.
Right.
All right, this one, we were talking about it while it was happening. The 49ers and the Cardinals. This game was lost completely due to special teams.
Well, this was...
And then also, Kyler Murray kind of having a rough outing.
Yeah, this was one. We've talked about it all year, how this Cardinals offense is so up and down, and this was down for them. And it was a game they needed to win to get in the playoffs. It was a game we all wanted them to win because I don't think any of us want to see Trubisky in the playoffs this year. And it was just a dud. I mean, the passing game really, I think, has a lot of work to do. They're a splash offense. They're a big play offense, but there's no week-to-week.
There's no consistency with Kingsbury's air raid.
Correct, and there's no week-to-week rhythm, and I think they need to really do some soul searching this offseason because when they don't have those splash plays, and when they do have those splash plays, we know how talented this offense is, and they're as good as anyone. We know Kyler Murray can run. He picked up 2 or 3 fourth downs just in this game with his legs, but outside of that, you need to be consistent play to play on the passing game, and Murray here just 247 yards on 50 attempts and 31 completions, and we've seen that a lot from him, 4.9 yards per attempt. We've seen this a lot in terms of a lot of completions, but not a lot of yards. He's not getting effectiveness out of his completions. Kenyon Drake didn't have a good day by his standards. 20-12, but it really would have. They had a chance to win at the end. They couldn't come through on a late drive, but it really would have even been worse if not for a couple uncharacteristic Robbie Gold misses. So they were even lucky to have this be in it here, have it be one.
I think I'm losing you a bit here. All right, while we're waiting for him to reload.
It's hard when you're a running quarterback. I mean,
There
and especially when you're as short as Murray is. I mean, he isn't going to be able to see through these crowded pockets and hang in there. It's tough. Left
I think we're losing him again. While we're waiting for that.
becomes of him in this passing offense moving forward. Everyone knows he's talented. He did take a big step forward from his rookie year in terms of numbers, but it's still there's still been a lot of inconsistency here for him, and he showed a lot more poise, and he wasn't quite as frenetic at Oklahoma, but the pockets are just so much tighter in the NFL than they are in college. I mean, he had a clean pocket on most plays in Oklahoma, so it's kind of a different beast here. And on the 49ers side of the ball, I mean, they go back to C.J. Beathard after Nick Mullins has struggled in recent weeks, and he didn't have to do a lot, but he was efficient. He didn't turn the ball over. Jeff Wilson, I don't know who that is, but he ran the ball really well. Looks like pretty much anyone can run effectively in this Kyle Shanahan system. And, it was, again, a tough performance that showed why, this team has kept fighting, under Shanahan despite all the losses. And the same for this defense. And it's this kind of game that raises the stock for defensive coordinator Robert Saleh. I mean, they really shut down this Cardinals offense. And he's without key pieces, too. He's without Nick Bosa as well. A good win for the Niners. And again, this NFC West, anyone can beat anyone. We've seen that all season. And sometimes weird things happen when you have a division game, but certainly a disappointing outcome for a Cardinals team that was hoping to make the playoffs, but now is on the outside looking in and will need help moving forward.
Yeah, so this is going to be a rough outing for Cardinals week 17. They have to it is a must-win situation for them right now. They have to compete with the Bears, and they're competing with the other wild card spots as well. Seeing Kyler Murray struggle like he did there it's not easy to watch. I mean, that 49ers defense is playing they're playing like tough competition even with all the injuries. Garoppolo shut down for the year, Sherman was shut down for the year. George Kittle came back for this game actually. And Nick Bosa being shut down for the year. Like, this 49ers team, even with all the injuries, is still nothing to bat an eye at. If, they could have easily, under different circumstances, made the playoffs, but they didn't, sadly, due to, having to adjust real quick. Nick Mullins, as we've mentioned before, he is not, like, the guy that you stick with week to week, and neither C.J. Beathard. So, like,
Right.
having that inconsistency at quarterback definitely was rough for them. But, so for the Cardinals, though, like, air raid seems to be like kind of on and off for them. That does not seem to be the permanent answer.
Yeah, they've got to figure a lot out this offseason. I mean, they've just been really inconsistent, and we've seen the flashes, and we know how the amount of talent they are, but they have to figure out how to be more consistent. And Kyler Murray, again, he's frenetic, and the other thing that affects your accuracy. When you don't have a throw from a firm base in your feet, and you're moving too much, then you're going to miss guys. And Kyler Murray has struggled with accuracy at times this year. So we know the talent is there, and we want to see this team succeed. It's outside of those Arians years, it's the best we've seen the Cardinals for a while. It looks like they have a foundation they could stick with, but it's been week to week, and they really need to figure it out. And the other thing, I think Kyler Murray is dinged up. I don't think he's expected to play next week, Sam.
No, he might be out. I mean, he was getting hit a lot. I know we were talking about it earlier. He got hurt during the Patriots game. He was still kind of dealing with that lingering injury. And that's something you don't want to do to your young guy, especially if you're in the playoff hunt. You're going to want to give him some time to rest real quick. Yes, you might want to take you might want to bring in a backup maybe 1 week just to let him, rest for a bit to heal up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not good for them. So, they're in a must-win situation here. And again, division rivalry, anything can happen. I do attribute some of this to that, but Cardinals are now 8-7, and you take out some of these miracle outcomes with the Hail Murray and the triple overtime game versus the Seahawks, and they've had weeks where they struggle. So
it's been rough to see them, but this is why they're fighting for a 7th seed, not fighting for a 5th or a 3rd seed.
Right, and I really think Kingsbury has to kind of open up the playbook this offseason, and
he needs to. He needs to adapt to, more than just this air raid.
Right. Figure out a way to just be more consistent in this offense. And so yeah, I mean, young team. It's not it's not like we're talking 5 years in or anything. They certainly can figure it out, but they've got questions to answer.
Oh, absolutely. Let's head over to the last game from Saturday. It was an AFC matchup, and this game eliminated the Las Vegas Raiders from playoff contention. The Dolphins beat them 26-25. I want to talk about those last few plays when Ryan Fitzpatrick was in. Like, he was getting his face mask grabbed. He was getting yanked the wrong way, and he tossed up a deep bomb to his receiver that he caught it while he was going out of bounds. What kind of play do you think that was? Who do you think was more credit there? The throw by Fitzpatrick, or that the receiver was able to track it down between all his defenders?
Well, it was an amazing play all around, and I mean, you take a look at that throw, and he's pretty much getting his head ripped out of its socket while he's making this throw. I mean, it is a face mask, but his head is literally ripped all the way back, and
he was really getting yanked there. Like, even if that pass was not caught, he was getting a first down from that, because that was just nasty.
Oh, it was a penalty either way. I mean, it was a really egregious. I mean, his head is all the way. I mean, if you haven't seen this play, just
I'd recommend giving that a look, because that play, my God. And then just to get them in field goal range for Jason Sanders too, that's just a great way to end the Raiders' hopes right there.
Go to YouTube, look up Ryan Fitzpatrick no-look pass. It's honestly one of the best throws I think we've ever seen. I mean, just to get that ball off and get it in a perfect position down the field, right? It's not like this was a dump off. This was a down the field throw, and
that was a Hail Mary.
Right, perfectly placed, and to get them, have them with no time left really to get them in field goal range for Jason Sanders, who's been phenomenal this year. But really, you talk about Fitz magic, and
this is peak Fitz magic right there. Like,
that is, I mean, the biggest example of Fitz magic you'll ever see. And again, Brian Fitzpatrick is really rejuvenated. I don't know, rejuvenated because he's so old.
He's at the end of his career, but one thing he's done for this Dolphins team that a lot of people don't want to credit right now is that he actually got them set up to this position where they are right now, to make it to the playoffs. They could be a 6 seed or a 5 seed at this moment. Like, Ryan Fitzpatrick set them up in that first few weeks and paved the way for Tua here. So we got to give credit to him for what he's done for this Dolphins team. Like, it was a turnaround of the ages here. Like, they went from one of the worst teams to could have almost won the division this year.
And what he did last year too, considering how bad they were around him.
They were projected to win 0 games, and they won 5, and he helped end the Patriots dynasty.
Right, they couldn't run the football at all. He was their leading rusher last year, and they were going spread, and he was, with that, one of the biggest upsets, as you alluded to, in Week 17 against the Patriots, I believe, in New England.
No, that's Miami.
Oh, it was in Miami. Okay.
It was the Miami curse.
But even so, winning that game sort of, that momentum kind of, that was the beginning of the end for the Patriots, and I think that momentum carried over to them this year, and this team and the confidence showing that they really could go all the way with Ryan Fitzpatrick here. But yeah, this was an incredible throw. Patrick Mahomes actually tweeted that's the best no-look pass I've ever seen, which was, pretty high praise coming from a guy
who can do that with ease.
The king of the no-look pass. But I think we have to talk about the quarterback situation here. I mean, it worked out in this game, and you and I talked about it earlier this year when Flores made the decision to put Fitz in late to try to get a spark, and it didn't work. In this game, it did work. Now, the Myles Gaskin, the earlier kind of touchdown for Myles Gaskin was a big run after catch. That wasn't really Fitz, but
it was still huge though for him.
Yeah, but then what we saw in this game was that Tua, and this is again, he's young, so it's not, the book isn't written, but when he struggled, we've seen this now where he's getting a lot of empty completions, right? 17 of 22 for only 94 yards. He's holding onto the ball, and he's not kind of
he's not letting it go quick enough.
Right, he's not pushing it down the field. And Kurt Warner was doing this game, who, frankly, I wish he did more games because he's a very good analyst, and he's not flashy by any means. He just kind of tells it how it is. And he was talking on the broadcast about, what is open in the NFL and how Tua, being a young player, doesn't quite have the mindset of understanding when a guy is open in the NFL. He's going to look covered, but, you have to let it loose anyway. And that's
you got to let it fly. Even if you don't have the DeAndre Hopkins on your side, you got to trust your receiver.
Right, and that's an understanding Fitzpatrick has more at this point. Now, but I still struggle with this from Brian Flores. I mean, you're a coach, you want to win games.
You're winning, but now you're making issues where you could see that Fitzpatrick is winning.
Right. I mean, if because if you know, and Tua has a lot to do with their winning streak as well. I mean, and again, someone on Twitter, I think, I don't know if it was jokingly or not, was like Tua's the, this is just, let's normalize rotations in football. Tua's the starter and Fitz is the closer, but you got a young, and I don't think Tua's like super fragile. I think he can handle it, but you got a young quarterback, and again, I've always been of the opinion that a young quarterback has to play through his struggles. You don't get better by sitting on the bench. And this was, again, we talked about when Brian Flores made this decision. This they were playing well with Fitzpatrick and they looked good, and it was a decision he made because he thought Tua was ready. And I just think you have to if you're going to do that, you have to roll with the consequences and understand that your rookie quarterback is going to struggle at times. And now essentially you have a quarterback controversy on your hands because and he said Tua starting next week, but I think you either have to let Tua play through this stuff, or if you think Fitz is the best chance to go to the playoffs, let Fitz play full time. But I got to say, even though it worked for them in this game and it might work for them moving forward, I struggle to see how just being kind of on a whim benching Tua when he's struggling is good for this team in the long term. And Sam, it just feels to me like an example of missing the forest for the trees here.
It's going to be interesting to see next week. They're playing the Bills team now. They need to win to really secure this playoff spot. They're not in just yet. And you know what? If they're going to stick with the idea that Tua's going to start the game for them and then let Fitzpatrick finish it for him, that's going to be really rough going down the future here. Because then you're going to set Tua up to not really be able to finish the games here. So I get why they're going to need it now, because they're going to want to make the playoffs. They're going to try to do everything to win this week. But it's like, how is this going to affect him down the road? Because Fitzpatrick's not going to be here forever.
No, and it can't. Your audio went out in the middle there, but
yeah, by the way.
But it can't be good for the confidence of a young quarterback, or just the development of a young quarterback. I mean, your number one goal as a coach is to develop your first round pick here, and I just again maybe are there some concerns about Tua moving forward? Sure, but he's a rookie, and I think you just gotta let him play through it. I don't know what the long term plan here is, and I don't. There's an old expression: if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks, and I just don't think this is, even if it paid off in a win today and it pays off in the short term.
It's not going to work down the road.
What is your locker room thinking right now? Who's the leader in that locker room? I just don't understand how this is a move that pays off. And again, maybe we've talked about. I mean, I think you're the one who showed me that YouTube video about the career of Ryan Fitzpatrick and how he really only plays well as a backup. So maybe just him as 4D chess to get him, in backup mode, so he can be a superstar and come in late. I don't know, but I really think this has been a poor handling of it for Brian Flores, even though it worked out in this game.
He's doing good things, but it's going to lead to bad stuff down the road here. Just real quick before we move on to the Sunday action, I'm just looking here. It looks like the Raiders did still have a good day. They just lost on a bad play there. Like Nelson Aguilar had 5 receptions for 155. Darren Waller showing why he can be one of the great tight ends in the league. Like this was a good game by the Raiders. It just wasn't enough. And just like we were talking about what they did last year, they lose to a bad team that's 4-9 or whatever they were. And they just now lose so many straight in a row where they get eliminated from the playoffs.
Well, a couple of notes here on the Raiders. Aguilar has kind of, rejuvenated his career here. I mean, he struggled a lot in Philly, and he looks like a different player in Las Vegas. So if you want to, attribute that to just a new team, a new mindset, or if you want to,
the way I'm going to say it is, he got away from Carson Wentz.
Or if you want to attribute that to, the Eagles fans who keep telling us that Carson Wentz has no weapons, and maybe it's the quarterback there. Waller, as you said, continues to be phenomenal. They said on the broadcast he had a 3-game stretch that was the best in NFL history in terms of receiving yards, and the thing with him in this game too is not only speed but the hands. I mean, they split him out wide against corners in this game, and
he could beat them.
Carr threw him a couple contested balls, and he really went up. But I ultimately in this game, I think this is an indictment on John Gruden more than anything, Sam, because they should not be 7-8 considering how well they started the season and how well they were playing. They've really fallen off late here, just like they did last year. Mina Kimes was talking about this, how they're sort of the opposite of the Falcons in that they start the year good on defense and then
They fall apart.
They fall apart exactly, and that's what we've seen from them. We've seen them give up plays late in the game, and Carr is okay, but yeah, the defense. I mean, Gruden fired his defensive coordinator a few weeks ago in that midseason, and that really seemed like a scapegoat firing to me because now Rod Marinelli, who's about 90 years old, is in charge, and he runs this outdated, Tampa 2 system.
He's a bad defense, but I mean, John Gruden's kind of runs outdated plays to begin with, and you're
Well,
stuck with him for 10 years now.
right. Well, I mean, Marinelli with this Tampa 2. I mean, you saw it. You saw it late in the game that with I think we're so blown away by that Fitzpatrick throw that we ignored the fact that the receiver was wide open and the corner just let him go and was sitting in the flat and then
Yeah, they were not playing so great there.
there was a big hole in the sideline and as Kurt Warner said on the podcast, you just play a safe quarters coverage and take away the sideline in that situation. But so that really drew into question the decision making by Gruden on that, and I think again I think it's a bad year considering how this had. I think you and I looked at this team, especially after that Chiefs win, and thought
This team could go far.
This is a team that not amazing, but certainly should be a playoff team and should at least be a team with a winning record. So I think the buck stops here at Gruden once again.
Yeah, so they're going to end the year probably at 500 if they get the win next week.
And again, just no business for them losing this game, but they find a way to lose here.
Yep. Alrighty, let's talk about some Sunday action. You texted me when this happened, so I'm going to take the lead real quick on this one. The Falcons 14-17 lost to the Chiefs here. Now, one of the things is they were keeping really, really good with them too. Like they were keeping it close. Like it was 0-0 for a good portion of this game until like they got close to halftime when both teams finally scored, 7. But like you can't I'm not blaming anyone. Like this was just a great game between both teams here. Like Grady Jarrett was abusing the center to go hit Patrick Mahomes. That was really good on their part. Like I don't know how I don't know what it is, but I was looking at something and the Falcons seem to always keep it close against the top teams in the league. They did it against the Panthers when they were undefeated. They even beat them. They did it to the 49ers. They beat them. And someone predicted that they were going to beat the Chiefs by 4 and they almost did that. But to the part where they're going to say, "Oh, the Falcons choked again." Younghoe Koo sadly did miss his first field goal in a long while here.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to attribute that to he knew what the goal was. He knows what he was doing. He wants that pick now.
I don't know about that. He actually, I mean, it's unfortunate for Younghoe Koo because he's had such a great year.
To kind of shank away that would have been a good win. I feel like that minus draft position that would have been a good win for the Falcons. It would have kind of gave them some little hope to ride in on. But you know what? Look, I'm all for trying to get better draft picks. I never want to see my team lose, but I can't complain when they do at this point. They're the 4th pick in the draft at the moment, and that's great.
It's great, but they keep embarrassing them. I mean, they get a look. AJ Terrell drops what should have been the clincher for Patrick Mahomes, and
he threw a bad. He dropped a big one there, and Raheem Morris even challenged it for some reason.
Yeah, it was a terrible challenge. And look, when you can't give Patrick Mahomes a second chance. Everyone knows that.
No, you really can't.
Everyone knew he was going to throw a touchdown the next play, and that's what he did. But the Falcons have a chance to answer here, and Matt Ryan looked sharp on this drive until they get in the red zone where he almost fumbled it, and then he almost threw an interception. And then they bring out Younghoe Koo, and he misses the chip shots. Who's been money all year. I mean, we've talked about every week how good Younghoe Koo has been. So again, the Falcons. I mean, it's so embarrassing. They just keep finding ways to lose game. And I mean, yes, it's good to get draft position, but they've just taken losing to an art form in terms of the way that they lose. In the sense that again, this is not like a terrible team. I mean, this is a team that like the Chargers for many years would play it close and then find a way to give it up in the 4th quarter. And so, Koo, we'll keep an eye on that if this was a one-off or if it's a clutch struggle. He did say the turf. He struggled with the turf a little bit. This is one of the few fields that uses actual fake grass instead of just turf. So
yeah, he was he almost missed an extra point too early in the game. So he was definitely having a bit of issues that was noticed.
Yeah, he did. But Matt Ryan had a really good day. Ridley continues to be phenomenal.
I'm really shocked that Ridley didn't make it to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, the Pro Bowl is a joke at this point.
Even though it's not happening, it's just people are going to go play Madden in Vegas.
No, but just I mean, in the last recent, I mean, the Pro Bowl,
Oh yeah, it's a fucking joke, but
means something, but they just the selection is just a joke. But again, I'm just out of words for this Falcons team. I just they just
there's not much else you can say. Well, let them finish off their season and let them have fun with it. On the Chiefs side of things, though, first seed in the AFC is finally clinched. The Chiefs have now got it.
well,
I gotta say they definitely had a bit of a struggle here.
well, this is a game I expected to be an absolute and complete blowout. And like you said, the Falcons can play people well any week, and especially tend to do that with the good teams, which is part of the reason they're so goddamn frustrating because
They can play good football, but for some reason, when it comes to just teams they should beat, they lose, and then when it comes to teams they should, lose to, they keep it close and lose anyway.
100%. But so this is a blowout, and I think from a mindset perspective, it's a little bit, I sort of kind of that trap game, not exactly trap game, but just it's hard to prepare when the team in front of you, when there's such a talent disparity, right, and when you're so much better and you should be so much better. I really, they talked about this. Tony Gonzalez talked about it in this halftime show. I really think it's hubris for the Chiefs. I mean, they seem so caught up in their own lore that they're almost bored just going through the motions and playing normal football when they need
Yeah.
to. They know that they can turn it on at any point in the game, and they do that in the fourth quarter. But when they have to just grind it out, it just seems like they have no interest in doing
They,
so.
they don't want them. Honestly, there was a lot of passes that were just dropped that really shouldn't have been.
And I think the biggest, and you and I have both praised Andy Reid for his creativity and play calling, but also criticized him for the fact that he tends to just get too cute at times.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest example of that was the fourth down play where they went in this heavy pistol set. They did the back.
Oh, when they threw it to Patrick Mahomes and Keanu Neal just Randy Mossed his ass.
They did the Backstreet Boys spin around in the backfield like they did in the Super Bowl to shift the formation. They do some sort of fake, but then it goes. Who did they snap it to? Who was throwing it?
Sammy Watkins.
They snap it, yeah. They do some sort of fake reverse to Sammy Watkins, and he's running laterally to the right and going backwards, and then he's throwing a wheel route to Patrick Mahomes all the way on the other side of the field, to the quarterback, not to receiver, and it was 4th and 1. It was 4th and 1. I mean, fourth down and 1 yard, literally just run the ball, run an option play, run an out to the tight end, or run a stick outside. I mean, you're making it so hard on yourself to pick up a yard. You know what this play reminded me of, Sam?
Go ahead.
This play reminded me of you in Madden. Whenever you would play our friends who had no idea how to play Madden, and you would always spend 3/4 just like calling ridiculous plays, running backwards and throwing laterals, and then when the fourth quarter came along, you would finally like win the game. But until then, you would just do. I mean, didn't that feel like? I mean,
It was just having fun at that point.
What other explanation is there for running the most convoluted play you can think of on 4th and 1?
I think Andy Reid was using this time to just try stupid shit.
Right, just get it on tape. Like I don't know. I mean,
see what went wrong. See where you could go better.
It just that was. I mean, if it wasn't the Chiefs and it wasn't Andy Reid, I would be saying like this is like just a horrendous play call. But we know they can play normal football at any time. But again, I think it's just hubris for the Chiefs. And
it was. And there's only one last thing I want to talk about before we move on to the next game here. I got to talk about that goal line interception that Jose Aluakan had on Patrick Mahomes, because that was insane, that interception. Like, he just plucked that straight out of the air. He ran it 50 yards, and Tyreek Hill, by the way, comes out of nowhere and strips the ball right out of his hand. Like, that's just an insane play. First, the interception was crazy. Then, just having him run down, and then having Tyreek Hill just pop up out of nowhere to strip the ball. I think that's just crazy athleticism on Tyreek Hill's part, too.
We see that a couple times this year. We saw that with the Seahawks receiver. What's his name?
DK Metcalf.
Yeah, we saw Metcalf run guys. I mean, it's always so interesting. You think you have a pick and it's all good.
You think you're all set, and then just some receiver comes out of nowhere and just backs it out of your hand.
If you got speedy receivers behind you in the NFL, I mean, I think that's a good lesson. I don't know if you remember when the Falcons played the Niners in 2010.
Roddy White did it.
Yeah, Roddy. Ryan threw a pick, it would have ended it, and Roddy White just punched that ball.
I don't know if you remember when Quan Alexander and the Buccaneers got an interception and Julio ripped it out.
Which game? Which year was that?
2016, 17? I'll have to find it. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
I was going to say, Julio plays defense the most, too, so.
Yeah, but, I mean, this was the first, I don't want to say bad game by Mahomes because it still was fine, but it certainly,
it was an interesting game for him.
Yeah, I mean, the pick was bad, and he really should have cost him at the end with A.J. Terrell, but A.J. Terrell unable to hold on, and he throws the game-winning touchdown, and, those are the breaks.
Hopefully Terrell will work on his hands on the offseason.
He's a rookie.
He is a rookie. He was our first pick this year.
Was this Younghoe Koo's first miss?
First miss in a while. He did have a few misses early in the season.
Well, always keep an eye on kickers missing in the clutch because some kickers do struggle with that. Now, I don't. It's too small sample size to say Younghoe Koo, but it's unfortunate because he's had such a great year. But you got to.
So unfortunately, this could be beginning of the end, or it could be his motivation. So.
Right, you got to make that. I mean, we know you and I both know Matt Bryant would have made that field goal. So.
Maybe not now. Maybe not now.
Not. Of course, not today.
But back in the day, yeah, absolutely.
But a win's a win. But a little closer comfort for this Chiefs team, I think.
Speaking about a win's a win, the Jets have beaten the Browns 23-16. They have officially lost the first pick. The Jaguars now have the first pick.
What is going on? Just 2020 when you think that it's given us all you can, and all of a sudden the Jets are on a 2-game winning streak.
The Browns needed to win this game.
This
was a must-win.
Sam Darnold's second game in a row, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Jamison Crowder had a pretty touchdown on a trick play. It's like, where was that play calling all season, Adam Gase? Like, you think maybe a trick play would have helped you earlier in the year when all your receivers were injured. But yeah, and similarly to the Rams win, they just get out early. I mean, they
got out early. Like, look, it was like 13-3 at halftime.
I think it was 20. It was.
No,
20?
I'm looking at the box score. It was 7-3 in the first. The Jets scored 6 in the second, and then that was it.
Well, similar to last week too. I don't think the Browns had a lead in this game, did they?
No, it does not look like they did.
Well, unfortunately for the Browns, all their receivers were out with COVID.
They were on COVID watch, sadly, but they still had Austin Hooper, who was doing nice. David Njoku. Yes, they're running a bunch of practice squad guys. Their only receiver who had more than maybe 10 snaps in the NFL was Marvin Hall, and this is his first year on the Browns anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's just came at a really bad time when the Browns are about to have their first, successful season in a while, and all of a sudden all their receivers are out. And you saw Jarvis Landry. I mean, they didn't all have COVID. I think a lot of it was contact tracing.
It was contact tracing, they said.
So you saw some frustration there from the Browns, and rightfully so. I mean, you have to think if they have healthy receivers, it's a different outcome here. But I mean, the Jets just came to play for the second week in a row. Baker Mayfield had 2 lost fumbles, 3 fumbles on the day. I think really the story in this one, and part of this was because of the score, but really was the Browns' inability to run the football. I mean, just 11 carries for 28 yards for Nick Chubb, and Kareem Hunt 4 carries for 11 yards. That's under 3 yards a carry for both those guys, and Baker Mayfield has to throw it 53 times. I mean, that is way away from their averages, where they seem to be good for at least 100 yards every week. They just couldn't get anything going in this one.
Yeah, it was a rough outing, and you mentioned no receivers. Nick Chubb couldn't do much. Kareem Hunt couldn't do much, and Baker's trying to do what he can. He did get sacked 4 times. The one thing I will mention on the Jets, we've talked about this so many times, but I think now our kind of wish has come true. I think with this, now that the Jets have locked in the second pick in the draft, I think they're going to be sticking with Darnold, is what they're saying, and they're going to try to pick something around him, and I think they're going to actually start building for Sam Darnold here. So I think they're going to try to stick with him and maybe make him the future of this Jets team.
It's interesting. I do believe that Sam Darnold's had a raw deal of it, but part of me also wonders if he would be best served
somewhere else.
Somewhere else, yeah.
Look, if Adam Gase sticks around next year, then yes, I want to see Sam Darnold somewhere else. If they fire Adam Gase and get an actual coach in here, I want to see what he can do. Yeah. They're not going to give up on the young guy anymore unless they pick Justin Fields, which is still in the realm of possibility. But reports are saying that they're most likely trying to stick with Sam Darnold now, let him rock out and see what he can do. Honestly, I think with the Jaguar situation, I think maybe Trevor Lawrence might be a good push in the right direction for them. He's not going to be the franchise savior, but it's going to be a helpful, try to not get like a luck in the draw Tom Brady-esque player in the 6th round again.
Well, it's interesting what they, yeah, and I'll talk about Trevor Lawrence when we get to the Jaguars, but it's interesting, that they are, like you said, the reports are that they're trying to stick with Sam Darnold here because it obviously wasn't a good year, and again, we've talked about the dysfunction in New York with their quarterbacks and with their management.
Mm-hmm.
And Justin Fields a year ago, I would have said,
he's ready to rock. He could be the guy.
Right, but he hasn't been as good this year. So and he's hurt now. So that muddies the picture a little bit. That's why I'm curious to see how he does against Clemson this weekend, because I think that's actually gonna be a pretty big game for his future here.
Yeah, well, maybe also they go out and get Dwayne Haskins. Maybe they do that.
Another project here. Yeah,
we'll talk about him when we get there.
Yeah, a lot to talk about there. But yeah, well, let's talk Trevor Lawrence when we get.
We'll talk Trevor Lawrence when we get to Jaguars and we talk more about the draft. But in terms of this Jets game, though, Frank Gore did make a milestone. He reached 16,000 career rushing yards. Unfortunately, he did get out. He got hurt, and he is not probably going to be playing next week. I think he hurt his lungs, so we'll see what happens to him. There was one person saying, I hope Frank Gore sticks around. We want to see a running back duo of him and Frank Gore Jr.
Who is Frank Gore Jr.?
His son.
Is he in the draft?
Not this year. I think he's got another year or so.
Speaking of bloodlines, have you been reading about the new Manning kid?
No, I did hear about him though.
There's a new Manning kid, and he is. I think he's Peyton's nephew or something. Like he's not his son. I think he's Cooper's son. Poor Cooper, man. His two brothers are star quarterbacks, and his son's about to be a star quarterback, but he got injured and couldn't play.
Yeah.
Talk about being the disappointment of the family there. But no, just the new, and again, just quick chant. But the new Manning, he's in high school, and I think he will go to college in 2 years, maybe not next year. But he's on track to be like a Trevor Lawrence prospect in terms of recruitment, and he can run. He's Peyton Manning, but he can run. So a couple of years from now, we're going to be talking. His name's Arch. We're going to be talking about Arch Manning.
Arthur Manning. All right, we'll keep an eye out for that.
Talk about bloodline, but yeah, Frank Gore. Frank Gore. Adam Gase likes Frank Gore, so maybe Adam Gase just takes him wherever he goes next.
Yeah, if Adam Gase gets a job.
Well, he won't get another head coaching job, but
no, because Greg Williams is not getting another defensive coordinator job after this either.
Someone might be dumb enough to hire him as offensive coordinator.
Never know. All righty. So let's talk about a real game now. We talked about the Falcons dud. We talked about the Jets blowing it. Let's talk about a real game here. Playoff implications on the line here. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they beat the Colts. They win the AFC North. It was 28-24, and they made a huge, huge comeback to win this one. Still looks sloppy as fuck.
17-point comeback. Once again, the Colts and Phillip Rivers, big game on the road, not able to finish the game. The first half of this game, and I'm just looking up a stat that I found for this about this game when it happened, because it was notable. Here we go. Yeah, the first half of this game was exactly what both of these teams have been in the past, and that the Colts are running the football with Jonathan Taylor. Zach Pascal's kind of become Phillip Rivers' go-to guy. They even had some success throwing deep, which is not something we've seen with Rivers this year. And the Steelers were, throwing only short passes, and they weren't completing them. And when they were completing them, they were getting tackled short of the sticks. And they were able to turn things around. Ben Roethlisberger showed that, even in his old age, he's still capable of big-time performances. He was 34 of 49 for 342 and 3 touchdowns. They finished a 17-point comeback here. Unbelievably, the Steelers are the first team in NFL history to win 4 games in a season without rushing for 50 yards. The rushing game has just been pitiful for the Steelers, and I think it's as much as Ben has struggled at times. I think it's a boon to his legacy that he was able to put together this type of season without a running game and without weapons and without an offensive line. So again, I will continue to praise Ben Roethlisberger here. Deontay Johnson is coming along here, and I think, Sam, the most notable thing about this Steelers comeback that I've read is that they're, and again, this is not confirmed. I think it came from Mike Silver, and he makes a lot of shit up, so could be wrong. But the rumors are that Ben Roethlisberger took over play calling from Randy Fichtner in the second half, and that was part of the reason for their comeback, because Fichtner has been so utterly predictable in his play calling. I'd be surprised if he has a job here next year, just with the dip and dunk horizontal game and such a lack of creativity. And the Steelers showed that, like, when they actually try to throw the football down the field, they had some success. And I understand you don't have the receivers or the line, and I understand that Ben's arm isn't what it used to be, but you still have to try to throw the football down the field. And when you do, you can have some success with it, with the one-on-one balls, and that's what happened in this game. I mean, you can't make a living throwing horizontal passes, in 2-yard passes on every play, and that's what Randy Fichtner has been trying to do. And when they got away from that, they were able to, again, like you said, still sloppy, but they were able to have success, finish the comeback, and get a win here, which was an important win for them.
Now, there's one thing I want to bring up here, though, that there not a lot of people have talked about, but something I kind of noticed that I would like to talk about. But this game could have ended much differently, because Ben Roethlisberger did throw a really bad pass that should have been intercepted, but Chase Claypool yanked his defender far away, committing a penalty that wasn't called, and really kind of just, I feel like, kind of screwed the game there a little bit, where he could have easily taken it to the house, and that would have been a wrap on this game. I think it would have been over with that easy pick six, but because Chase Claypool, got away with an easy penalty there, he wasn't, they didn't get anything at fault there. I don't know if you saw that or not, but Ben Roethlisberger just dumped it into the flat where no one was there, and number 26 on the Colts just read it so easily, and Chase Claypool was like, nope, no you didn't, and just yanked him.
Yeah, I missed that play, but I think, look, first of all, as a receiver, you have to do that. Sometimes you have to become a defensive back and break up the interception. So,
no, I get that. Like, actually play the ball, but like he blatantly, like, absolutely interfered with whoever 26 was.
Oh, great. Yeah, again, a missed call, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that really kind of screwed the game here a little bit.
No, I think you're right, and sometimes, like we talked about with the Falcons and Chiefs, sometimes you make a bad decision and you get away with it, and then you end up, making the throw later in the game, and those are the breaks.
Yeah, it really is. But you know what? Good win for the Steelers. They really needed it. They're now AFC North champions. They're in the 3rd seed, not really locked in yet. So we'll have to wait to see what happens in Week 17 for them.
It's far from one of the best Steelers teams we've seen.
It is. It really is. But with that though, they got what they wanted. The Colts are now on the outside looking in.
Right, but yeah, which is crazy. I mean, the Colts could be an 11-win team and miss the playoffs here.
Yeah, easily.
I mean, the Colts have been really good. Again, I know Philip Rivers. He's not at the point in his career where he's going to consistently, put the team on his back for this game. But I don't agree with the notion that they need to just give up everything to get a quarter. I mean, I saw someone on Twitter, actually a Twitter follower I respect, say the Colts should give anything and everything for Trevor Lawrence. It's like they've been competitive in most of their games this year under Philip Rivers, and if I were them, I would bring back Philip Rivers and I would start to ease Eason in next year if he struggles. But again, it's been a good Colts team. I mean, rarely, I feel like I'm the only Philip Rivers defender left, but rarely do you see a team win 11 games and miss the playoffs.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see, but
they're a really good team.
They got a challenge next week. That's what it is.
They're a really good team, and with what they can do with Jonathan Taylor, with spreading the ball around with Rodrigo Blankenship, I mean they are not a bad team.
Yep. So we'll have to wait and see. All right. Well, we can try to do as much as we can with this one. Let's try to. We'll talk about what we can, but the Bears beat the Jaguars 41-17. With the Cardinals loss, the Bears are technically in the 7th seed at the moment. And with the Jaguars loss, they have clinched the number 1 pick, as we mentioned earlier. Mitch Trubisky, he's looking different than he was earlier in the season.
Well, I'd be careful with that. I think
look, I'm not saying he's amazing. He's looking different.
I think that David Montgomery has opened this offense up. And again,
absolutely.
I'll say it every week. I don't know where this David Montgomery was earlier in the year. I don't know if he was hurt, if he just wasn't playing or wasn't very good. But
What we need to know, though, is what are the Bears going to do? Because they're giving themselves false hope now, and they're saying that Trubisky and Matt Nagy might be back for another year.
well, Matt Nagy, I don't think should. I guess you could make an argument because of their defense, but Trubisky, I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm with you. I've seen the reports saying, they could. I just think. I mean, here's the guy that lost his job for Nick Foles. Here's the guy that has been really bad for. I mean,
His best year was what, 2 years ago now?
2 years ago, and he's been their defense has been so good. He's been the sole reason they've been missing the playoffs, and the sole reason they've been so bad this year. I mean, I think it would be a huge mistake, and I think he's going to be a fifth-year player. I mean, it's not a young player. I mean, we know who he is.
Yeah, he's kind of established at this point.
And I think also like what are you hanging your hat, like what is a trait that he does well? I mean, because he doesn't have a huge arm.
Nope.
He doesn't read the field well.
No.
He's not that accurate.
No.
I mean, his best trait is that he's a good runner, but they don't use him in the running game. They haven't for years.
He ran what? He's got 2 rushes for 10 yards on a touchdown. That's really all he's done that game.
I mean, and we've said it all year that this Bears defense is so good that if they could even have any running game, they could win games, and we're seeing that now.
They have a running game now. They're doing what we said.
They can win games, but I just think that would be a huge mistake. And stop wasting these great defensive performances and get a goddamn quarterback. I mean, I think Sam, even someone like Bridgewater or Darnold or
bring in Teddy next year if the Panthers don't keep him. I think we lost you for a second there. But on that, like the best quarterback for the Bears, I think in the few years have been fucking Jay Cutler and Rex Grossman. Yeah, we lost him for a second here. We'll give it a second. Hopefully it'll refresh itself here. But in terms of that, though, like this Bears team is it's interesting. Like you never know what's going to happen with them. You still there?
Yeah, I just got you back, but I lost you for.
All right. Well, what I was saying though is like I think the best Bears quarterbacks in the past years have been like what, Rex Grossman and Jay Cutler.
Well, yeah. I mean, Jay Cutler is. I think he's probably their. Here, let me Bears franchise passing leader.
He might be, but like Rex Grossman got him to the Super Bowl with a defense. Jay Cutler got him to an NFC Championship with a defense. Like Mitch Trubisky clearly can't.
Jay Cutler had like 2 good years, and remember Caleb Haney came in when Jay Cutler was riding the bike in the NFC Championship because he pulled a hammy or something, and everyone was like, "What happened?" So, and it's unfortunate. I mean, this is the downside of having that 7th playoff spot. Is you get these teams no one wants to see in the playoffs. In I mean,
so they're gonna sneak in, and the 2nd seed is gonna fucking probably trounce the whatever team sneaks in.
We've watched this anemic Bears offense every week.
Well, all right. On the NFC side, having a 7th seed is bad. On the AFC side, I think it's a really good thing.
This year, yes, because like the AFC.
For the AFC, for the NFC, no, we can get rid of it.
The AFC is good all of a sudden, but again, I mean, is the AFC going to be this good every year? I mean, I mean, if we had a 7th seed last year, we would have been watching, Duck Hodges start a playoff game for the Steelers. So
that would have been interesting.
So, but let's talk about the Jaguars. I mean, Trevor Lawrence fell into their lap. I mean, for so much of the season, we've been saying Trevor Lawrence to the Jets, and
that's gone now.
And look, I don't know if it sounds like they're going to keep Doug Marrone. I understand. I understand being skeptical of that move, but I kind of like Trevor Lawrence for the Jags here better than I like him for the Jets. I mean, the Jets are just so dysfunctional, and they're such a mess of an organization.
I was going to say, with the Jaguars, they at least cut out the problems that they're having. Ngakwe didn't want to be there. Gone. Ramsey was causing issues. Gone. Tom Coughlin was being a dickhead to players. Gone.
Right. And look, are the Jaguars, have they been good historically? No. But, it's not quite the level of dysfunction. You don't get the crazy New York market. You don't get, it's Jacksonville, it's Florida. It's warmer. It's more out of the, I just feel like it's a better landing spot for him, don't you?
Yeah, I think this will be good. Hopefully, They could build around him. If they keep Doug Marrone, I hope he advances himself and tries to work with what Trevor Lawrence can do, not just call plays for the sake of calling whatever he fucking feels like.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks like James Robinson didn't play, but
No, James Robinson was actually out.
but they've got what I mean. He's been good. I mean, Laviska Shenault kind of had a crazy touchdown catch in this one that sort of showcased what we expected from him coming out of. It was either Utah or Colorado. I get all these Pac-12 schools mixed up, but he came out of Colorado. Yeah, but he was so hopefully in the second year for him, you see some development. So it's really the defense they need to fix in Jacksonville because the offense. We've been saying it all year. Get a quarterback in there, and it's not.
Get someone that's not Gardner Minshew. You're good to go because you got DJ Chark, Keelan Cole Senior. Sorry, you got Tyler Eifert, who's making a resurgence here. It seems like
Right.
Laviscus, who's coming on as a really good rookie receiver.
Right.
DJ Chark, if I think I already said that one, but I'm going to say it again because he's becoming a really good receiver.
Really good.
James Robinson, who is your undrafted rookie running back, who has come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, this team is this offense is good. All you have to do is get a quarterback. Mike Glennon's not the answer. Jake Luton is definitely one and done, it seems like one game he's done.
Yeah.
And Gardner Minshew, his magic, he's not Fitzpatrick. He's not Fitzmagic. He's not Minshew Mania. It's over.
He does remind me of Fitz a little bit, I think, in that he could be a good backup who will give you a spark.
Look, if Fitzpatrick wants to teach Minshew the ways of the true journeyman, I say let him. But he's not a starter in this league. I'm sorry.
No, I agree. That's what I mean. I think he could be that kind of journeyman that steps in for a few games and plays well. But yeah, no, I like this fit of Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, and I just when you have that kind of generational talent, I mean, New York, we've seen it with the Jets. They kill you. I mean, they're so
they'll ruin it. They'll ruin it.
And Trevor Lawrence, he's such a good kid. I don't want him in that New York market. I think this is a better fit for him, and I'm glad it's turning out this way.
Yeah, so we'll see how he does. Let's. I'm done talking about sadness with the Bears making the playoffs.
And the Jaguars have another quarter. I mean, the Jaguars, their best quarterback was David Garrard of the decade, and he's of this millennia rather, and he was a fourth rounder, a game manager. Played as well as a fourth rounder game manager could. But
yeah,
you talk about Trevor Lawrence, and I mean this kid is next level. It's exciting. I mean, we saw it with Joe Burrow this year. I mean, it's exciting to see to think about what he could do in the NFL.
It's gonna be fun to watch. All right, let's move on here. We've got the Baltimore Ravens taking on your Giants. Unfortunately, the Ravens did win 27-13. The Giants are not out of the playoff talks, though. They're still only a game out. They could easily still sneak in. It's all going to come down to next week. We'll talk about clinching scenarios in a little bit. But in terms of the way the Giants played, is this really what we think of a division winner here?
Playoffs? You talk about playoffs?
Oh, well, yeah, because they can make it.
That's my Jim Morris Sr. response to the Giants making the playoffs. But I mean, look, regardless of if they make it or not, and I don't think they will because they're just not playing well. It should mean absolutely nothing that if you make the playoffs in the year where your division is the worst division since the merger.
No, you're gonna go just set up to lose at that point.
I don't think it means anything. The fact is you're 6-10, so it doesn't mean jack shit, and it shouldn't mean jack shit when it comes to evaluating the team, the coaching staff. I'm gonna, we like to get kind of in depth with analysis here. I'm gonna keep it real simple for layman fans of the sport, just to just super simplify what's wrong with the Giants, and I think most people will understand what I'm about to say is they're not scoring. They can't score points. You got to score points to win. They can't do it. I mean, they've been outscored in their last two games by like 70-20 or something insane like that. Just 13 points on the day. Now, they were outmatched. I mean, the Ravens defense had no chance. I was actually surprised it wasn't a bigger margin of victory for the Ravens. But, the last 3 weeks, they have, 26-7 to the Cardinals, 20-6 to the Browns, 27-13. And this offense is just anemic. I mean, Jones, he did all he could in this game, but the offensive line was just non-existent, really. Gallman is he? I like Gallman. He runs hard, but anyone, even Barkley behind this offensive line is going to struggle. And then the receiving core. I mean, I've said it all year. There's just not a lot of talent on this Giants offense. I mean, Sterling Shepard had a really good day. Their most talented player coming into the year was Evan Ingram, and his regression has been nothing short of spectacular. I mean, it's just not working in this offense. And then Darius Slayton, who I think everyone loved coming into the year, has been quiet. I don't know if that's in the new scheme. I don't know if it's because he's a deep threat and they're not going deep or they don't have time to go deep. I mean, they've been running a lot of hurry up with Jason Garrett that they were saying on the Cards broadcast that the Cards were first in the league in hurry up and then the Giants were second. So maybe I know you do that when you want to get some rhythm going and your line sucks. So I get the philosophy, but it hasn't worked. They're just terrible and not talented, and they can't score points, and that's why they're as bad as they are. And if it wasn't a 2020 kind of year for the NFC East, then we wouldn't even be talking about them going to the playoffs. I'm kind of sick as a Giants fan that we have to talk about that because they don't deserve it. The Ravens side of the ball, it's the same stat line for Lamar Jackson every week: 17 of 26, 183, 2 touchdowns. He's it's about 25 attempts. He's completing 17 to 20 passes. He's throwing for under 200 yards, and he's throwing for a couple touchdowns and no picks. And Gus Edwards ran well, and Lamar Jackson ran well, and J.K. Dobbins ran well. I mean, the formula works for them when it works, and it's just what we've been saying every week. What's going to happen when they play a team where they have to throw the football? And that, I think, remains an open question.
So I think you cut on the Giants there right on the head. I don't really want to talk about them too much right now. Ravens side of things, since they have like an actual chance of making it to the Super Bowl, they're gonna definitely have a tough road ahead of them. Like they're very one dimensional still. Like their best receiver is I guess we're claiming Des Bryant, and I wouldn't even call that the best receiver. I think maybe Hollywood Brown might be better. But like their receivers are very lackluster. Like they still don't have anyone to open the field for them. So you're still a one-dimensional team, and unfortunately, Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards is no Derrick Henry. Because you know what, Derrick Henry, even if they didn't have AJ Brown or Corey Davis, like he could easily muscle through people and make his own way. Luckily for the Titans, they have people to open the field for them. So and they have a pocket passer who can also run a little bit. So I think I think the Ravens are a beta version of the Titans right now.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Derrick Henry is a power back, and Dobbins is a bit more of a speed guy. What was I going to say about these Ravens? Blah blah blah. Oh yeah. So again, this has been their formula for the year, and it's worked in recent weeks in terms of 20 to 25 passing attempts and run the ball. And I think in the same way we said, the Cardinals have to look at their playbook over the offseason, I think the same is true for Lamar Jackson. And he didn't have an offseason, so
it's rough with the offseason, yes. Unfortunately, it is kind of late in the season, so I think we have to stop using that as an excuse now for everyone.
Sure. No, I just meant in the sense that when you
for setup.
Your playbook, yeah. I just think that
you couldn't adjust it, yeah. So a lot of teams are still using last year's playbooks.
Right. I think this offseason, I think Jackson has to kind of work on his pocket passing and his mechanics and his patience, and the Ravens have to get more dimensions in their passing game. But it's
definitely going to need some receivers in the offseason.
Right, but it starts with the quarterback, and it's their Achilles heel. I mean, they're a good team otherwise. They have their kicker is a robot. He's not a real person.
Wait, Justin Tucker's real?
No, he's not real. They are really good on defense. They can pressure the quarterback as well as anyone. Their backs are, like we said, it's not Derrick Henry, but no one's Derrick Henry. He's a throwback. I mean, he's Michael Turner, right? I mean, he's a throwback. But so they're a good team. The Achilles heel is the passing game. And if something were to stop them in the playoffs, it would be that.
Yeah, it absolutely would be. I don't know what you're feeling about this next game we're going to talk about, but there's really not much to discuss about them anymore. We have the Bengals beating the Texans 37-31. I mean, the only thing of note is Deshaun Watson got his hand stuck on someone and might have hurt his arm.
Right. Well, in the same way that you had an interim coach get Stafford injured, you also had an interim coach get Deshaun Watson injured. The Bengals, I mean, it's like the Jets. who are these Bengals? Brandon Allen threw for 300 yards, 29. To me, this was one of those games where you get two bad teams and bad defenses together, and all of a sudden it's a really good game.
If you get like competition together, it's going to be a good game. But it's like there's not really much to talk about really anymore. The Texans don't even have a first-round pick, so the Dolphins get better draft position. The Bengals get worse draft position here. And all you're really seeing, like you're evaluating your young guys. Like T. Higgins is definitely coming up as a good receiver for these guys. But like Giovanni Bernard's not going to be here next year. Probably AJ Green's going to be out next year. On the Texan side of things, like you get to see what Kiki QT can do.
Yeah, I think, if anything, just take a picture of this game because I don't think you're ever going to see Brandon Allen have this kind of game again.
I don't think you're ever going to see Brandon Allen again.
Well, unfortunately, you see, based on who's starting for some of the starters next week, I think you'd be surprised at some of the backup quarterbacks you see again that you won't. But I think the story here is Deshaun Watson is quietly having not only the best season of his career, but just one of the best quarterback seasons we've seen in a while. And
he is, and I wish he was on a better team and he wasn't getting fucking like whacked every day.
Especially since they got rid of Bill O'Brien. He's been on fire. I mean, again, and I know it's the Bengals defense, but 24-33 for 324 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, this is a career year for him, and like you said, it's just unfortunate that
it's sad to see him on this team. Like he's playing his heart out there.
It gives you hope for the future here. I mean, it really does. I mean, it would be very easy. If he was having a bad year, neither you or I would blame him for it. But he's not. He's having a really good year. So, if you haven't watched the Texans or Deshaun Watson this year because they haven't been very good, flip on some tape because this guy is good. And I was watching an old Clemson Ohio State game with Deshaun Watson, and he was every bit as good as Clemson as he was in the NFL. So a little weird that he didn't get more draft hype because the talent's always been there for him. And
it has been.
Let's get a coach in the building that knows how to coach. Unfortunately, I read someone, was it the Texans interviewing Marvin Lewis? Someone was, Texans is interviewing for Marvin Lewis.
I was going to say, I think the Texans are.
Which is what you and I both know would be a terrible move, but that can also just be them, interviewing a black guy for the Rooney Rule, which needs to be fixed because we saw the Cowboys when they knew they were going to hire Mike McCarthy, they interviewed Lovie Smith just for the Rooney Rule, so they could be that. But the Texans are also really dumb, so it could be a real hire. But you and certainly hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, a good game between two bad teams, but Zach Taylor still I think should be on the hot seat, and
I don't think he is.
You don't think he is, really?
No, I don't think he's on the hot seat. I believe he should be. I don't think he is. I think he's going to be back next year.
Someone tweeted, I think it was Zach Taylor. Here, I just Googled. Bengals will Zach Taylor leaves no doubt his job is safe at CincyJungle.com. How can you say that? Because you beat the fucking Texans?
Yep.
I just the NFL drives me crazy sometimes. It really does.
Adam Gase beating the Browns might have saved him a job too.
And I still, this is the dangerous part of the year because, like you said, false hope. We've been saying it for weeks now.
Yeah.
I still, Scott Kazmar tweeted this after the win, and he said, I still couldn't pick Zach Taylor out of the lineup. I don't think I could either. Could you? You know what Zach Taylor looks like?
What, Zach Taylor?
Yeah.
He looks like a generic white guy.
Right. I think
he looks like a Lego man.
I don't think that's a good sign as a coach if no one can knows who he is. But to each their own. But yeah, and the culture stuff too is just total. I mean, the reports have been behind the scenes that they all hate him. So
yeah, so perfect coach for the Jets.
The Bengals are doing to Joe Burrow here what we worried the Jets would do to Trevor Lawrence.
Okay, so hopefully it'll get better there in Cincy. AFC West matchup here. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry if I didn't.
You know what? I think we should bring back pulling in Manning and Elway. Players need to demand trades if they get drafted by bad teams. Enough of this crap, right?
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah.
But with that, we got AFC West matchup: Broncos Chargers. The Chargers won 19-16. I mean, there's not really much to talk about this one here. Herbert had a day, I guess. He played. Drew Lock he threw 2 interceptions. He didn't look so hot here.
Well, the Broncos are a mess. Drew Lock doesn't look like
both teams are a mess. The only problem here that we're having is that with this, the Chargers now have false hope in Anthony Lynn again.
Right. Well, that's the problem. I mean, Herbert's cooled off a little bit the second half of the season, but he's still playing well.
He's doing what he's supposed to do.
And if it weren't for him, Lynn would be gone already. I mean,
he would have been fired if Tyrod Taylor was here.
He single-handedly bailed out this team and given them hope. And again, the Chargers try to lose this one. They try to give up a lead. I mean, they're up 16-6, and they let the Broncos back in the game. So, you talk about choking as an art form. I mean, the Falcons...
The Falcons have perfected it. The Chargers are trying to learn.
Yeah, the Chargers are not far behind. So that's really all I have to say about this. Broncos, they're bad.
It's a mess, and that's really all we had to say about the game.
Yeah, they're bad. But, again, the Chargers, I don't see how you can justify keeping Anthony Lynn.
No, he's got to be... He's a coach that I think is on the hottest of seats right now.
Well, what did they say? The definition of insanity is
repeating everything, hoping for a different result.
The same, yeah, exactly. And that's the Chargers each and every week find ways to blow games, and what makes you think it's going to be any different?
Yep. So let's talk about a game that actually had some, playoff implications for it.
Please.
The Carolina Panthers beat the Washington football team 20-13. Dwayne Haskins threw 2 interceptions and lost his job, and he's cut from the team now. Taylor Heineke threw a touchdown. That's crazy. Teddy Bridgewater had a day, I guess. Antonio Gibson seems to be back. When it comes to this football team, I mean, the defense is doing what it's supposed to do. It's just the offense needs to step up.
Yeah, I mean, the Panthers, not a ton to say about them. Bridgewater has really cooled off the second half.
Yeah, Curtis Samuel and Robbie Anderson are looking bright for the future. DJ Moore as well.
Yeah, they have a great receiving core.
I want to talk about this football team, though, because if they won this game against the Panthers, they would have clinched the division.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Haskins really didn't look good, and it's been a crazy. I mean, first of all, Haskins goes to a strip club maskless.
Yeah.
Somehow still is allowed to play.
He was fined $40,000.
He was fine, but shouldn't he be in contact tracing? That's a little weird to me. I don't know.
No one with COVID was near him, so he didn't. He was still eligible to play.
But how did you with that strip club have COVID? Did you test every one of the strippers? Come on.
Yeah, that's how they go to work. They get tested.
Do they actually? Oh, well,
yeah, you have to. They can't just go in. You have to get tested for that.
But what about everyone else? What about everyone else at the strip club?
I don't know about them, but his tracing didn't go off, so they have no reason why they had to keep him out. But on field, he's looking like Dookie. Off field, he's looking like Dookie. So at this point, it was time to go.
Can I just say, though, that the contact tracing has been so inconsistent. I mean, did you see what was it when Des Bryant said he was going to retire, and because they ruled him out of the game a couple weeks ago? Do you remember that? Because
the contract tracing, and then he was like, "Oh, I'm good now, no problem."
Right. Well, he got a positive test, but and they showed him hugging everyone before the scenes, and and I don't know if you saw, it was on the pregame. Jay Glazer was They asked Jay Glazer, and he was like, "What's the deal with contract tracing?" He's like, and Jay Glazer gave some NFL bullshit explanation. He's like, "Yeah, they're not worried about contract tracing. Des Bryant is cleared to play," and the rest of the Fox NFL set is just cracking up. They're like, "How can you not be worried about contract tracing?" And he's like, "I don't know, man. Don't ask me." Anyway, the NFL's whack. But yeah,
it's weird. But with that though, I mean, but let's talk about the actual what he's doing. He's not playing like a first round pick, and he's acting like a diva. He's acting like Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, I mean, he needs a little rehabilitation of his
personality, character.
Yeah, not his, but his, just he needs to get his head on straight. I mean, again, a poor management by Washington in that they played him only to release him. I mean, that I don't know. If you were going to release him, why are you playing him? I guess
they needed fuel for the fire. I think.
They were holding out hopes to see maybe he'd be good, but yeah,
they gave him his last opportunity. It's like, if you cost us this shit, you're done.
He really struggled in this game. And after the game too, he didn't talk to the press at first, and then they made him have a Skype call with the press from his home, and he sounded really just depressed I mean, he was talking about this one of the worst weeks of my life. He sounded really down. That's why I think he just needs to kind of get himself together.
Once he fixes himself, then give him another opportunity. He's still a young guy. Like any team would still like. He's got a strong arm, so hopefully.
Right. He's a kid. I mean, he is. I'll look it up really quickly. Dwayne Haskins is he's 23 years old, so he's a kid. And I think someone tweeted, and I think they said the problem with Haskins is you know, like many players, he didn't understand the work ethic required to succeed in the NFL. And I said this last week. I'll say it again this week. The NFL is brutal, and if you're not 100% all in each day and every day, then it's going to kill you. And that's fine to not be all in. If you don't want to do it, like, find another career. But it's not, you know, there's some office jobs where you can kind of have, you can't have, if you're not all in, you're going to get destroyed because it's.
That's all sports leagues. If you're not there to play, you're not going to be there.
Right, but the NFL is because the NFL is so physical. It's like you're playing guys that want to murder you, essentially. Like,
yeah, I know. It's the same thing with hockey.
Right, with hockey too. So, you know, if you're not all in, so I think Dwayne Haskins is learning that the hard way. I think this will be good for him. I mean, you know, you don't know who you are until you're at your lowest point. So here's
so this is going to be a definitely interesting changing point for him. I'm going to be interested to see if any teams take that chance again with him.
Right.
See what moves on. Maybe he becomes a journeyman as well.
And I think, you know, it's interesting to talk about the Ohio State thing because, like, this is another failed Ohio State quarterback. Do people so does that?
You see certain schools like really not producing well for quarterbacks.
Well, it's hard to not think about Justin Fields now and look at that and say, is it just a result of the system? And Justin Fields is a better prospect than Haskins was, but Haskins was very highly looked at.
He was up there. Like, he was supposed to go before Daniel Jones.
You know, Danny Heifetz, our high school colleague who now works at The Ringer, wrote an interesting tweet about just quarterbacks that have looked good first-round QBs since 2015 and who's looked good and who hasn't. And really none of it is what you'd expect. So, and Alex Kirshner, who covers college football and is one of the best at covering college football, tweeted, you know, I really have to consider reevaluating. You know, Josh Allen's good, Baker Mayfield's average, Sam Darnold's bad. You know, I really have to think about the notion that just because you're good in college, you're going to be good in the NFL. And I think a lot of it has to do with where these guys went to play. But I think it's just another example that, you know, nothing. When you evaluate QB more than anything else, I think is a total crapshoot. Like, you know, you make your evaluations, but you never know if someone's going to be good because the NFL is just a whole different beast.
You're not going to know with any position, really. Like, you're just taking guesses.
Now, who the hell is Taylor Heineke?
He's the backup.
Okay. I've never heard of this guy. He was undrafted in 2015 out of Old Dominion. Was on the Vikings, practice squad, Patriots, Texans, Panthers, Battlehawks, AFL, and then Washington football team. So he's been around, but he hasn't. I don't think he's actually played on any of those teams.
So he's like Garrett Gilbert.
So he's a total unknown at this point.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens.
It looks like he's going to get the start next week. I mean, I don't think Alex Smith is.
Alex Smith is not ready. Kyle Allen's out.
So here we go, Taylor. I mean, this is going to be a pretty.
Week 17 is going to be fun for the NFC East.
It's a pretty sad week 17 when we look at some of the start with Murray out, with Goff out. I mean, this is going to be again.
Well,
and
speaking of NFC East intrigue, why don't we move on to the Cowboys and Eagles real quick? Because with the 37-17 win by the Cowboys, the Eagles are officially eliminated from NFC East contention here. They're out of the playoffs now. They're done.
Bye-bye, Philly.
So, like, honestly, I was looking at the schedule next week. I think the Cowboys and the Giants should be NBC primetime next week just because they're the two teams that could make the playoffs if the football team loses to the Eagles.
Well, who is it now? Redskins and...
It's football team Eagles.
Yeah. I agree, but Sunday Night Football scheduling sucks now. We know that.
Yeah. But we got the Eagles out here. Like, the Cowboys got false hope.
This was an interesting game. On the Eagles side of the ball, Jalen Hurts had a really good first half and struggled in the second half. You know, he had a couple fumbles, and, you know, running quarterbacks tend to have fumbling issues, so that's something to keep an eye on. But, you know, it's hard to, he's a rookie. He's making his third start. It's going to happen. He still had his good moments. Deshaun Jackson had a long touchdown, who I didn't even know.
Yeah, he came back for this week.
I didn't even know he still existed. I mean, he's obviously not someone you can count on to be healthy, but when he's healthy, I guess he can still get behind you. He just isn't healthy anymore. And the Cowboys, interesting here because when Andy Dalton first came in, he didn't look good, and I think he needed a couple weeks to remember how to play football. And now that he remembered, he looked pretty good. I mean, he threw for 377 on just 22 completions for 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. And a lot of people are saying, I mean, and like you said, maybe it's false hope, but a lot of people are saying that this now looks like the best team in the NFC East because they can score on you. And the 3-headed receiving monster of Cooper, Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb that we, in the offseason, we all said was the best in the league and that was supposed to set the league on fire, that we just haven't seen. They showed up today. So maybe it's just because of the Eagles' defense, but Andy Dalton looks good, and this offense looked good, I thought.
Yeah, they look pretty good, this Cowboys team. Unfortunately, as you mentioned, being the best team in the NFC East doesn't really mean much anymore.
No.
It's kind of nothing. So with that, though, I mean, like, Zeke looked like he came back. He had a decent day here against this beaten Eagles team. But again, you're playing a beaten Eagles team. Imagine if the Cowboys actually do win the division. They're going to be hosting the 7th seed in either the Bears or the Cardinals. And honestly, the Bears or the Cardinals are probably going to have their way with this team.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it's going to be them, the football. Like, honestly, the best chance for this NFC East division champion to have in that wild card round, I think, is going to be the football team just based on that front 7.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know that they can win with a 4th-string quarterback.
No, they're not winning with Taylor Heineke, but like if we want an interesting wild card weekend, we'd probably want football team in there because of that front 7, because the Cowboys are inconsistent as all hell. The Giants, as you mentioned when we were talking about them, for layman's terms, they can't score points.
Right. Well, let's see. I mean, they have an opportunity to go against the solid Giants defense, and if they can keep the passing game rolling, then maybe they can. I don't know. Maybe they again. Look, Sam. All these teams suck. Let's be real.
They do, yeah. But unfortunately, we have to mention them as if they're real. They're in it because they're in it. They're gonna make the playoffs. One of these teams.
Yeah. Right.
No, we're watching. The Vikings, who have a better record than all of them, they're out.
Well, I think if you took the Cowboys offense with the football team's defense,
you're ready to roll.
You'd have a solid team, but we can't do that, unfortunately. So.
Maybe we should.
Yeah. Look, I've said all year. You want to pass it. It's been a crazy year, just like Big Ten's passing new rules to let Ohio State into the playoff because it's been a crazy year. Like you want to pass a new rule.
Pass a new rule. Let the 8th seed of whoever's in the NFC be the 7th seed. Fuck it. Or let them be the NFC East champion.
Ban the NFC East from the playoffs just for 1 year. I'd support
Move
it.
everyone up a seed. Let Buccaneers host a home game.
I'd say that as a Giants fan. So
the way I see it is, I don't know if you've ever seen Bleacher Report's cartoon Gridiron Heights, where they make the running joke of the Delaware Clams.
I haven't seen it this year because I forgot about it.
But they made a running joke where all the eliminated stars join the Delaware Clams and become the NFC East champion. Maybe do that. Fuck it. Let them do that.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. I mean,
it's bad. Now, why don't we talk about your favorite division, the NFC West?
Well, Mina Kimes was talking about the Seahawks on Slow News Day with Kevin Clark on The Ringer, because she's a Seahawks fan, and what she pointed out, which seems to be accurate, is they can't seem to get both sides going at the same time, because earlier in the year they were amazing.
They were all offense, no defense.
Couldn't stop anyone for shit. Now they're really good on defense, and their offense.
But they can't move for shit.
Is kind of questionable.
But they have the division title here. They beat the Rams 20-9, putting the Rams in a bad spot.
I mean, it just feels like it's going to be. I mean, again, they've struggled on offense. Doesn't it just feel like they're going to max out at either tight wild card win and then bad divisional round loss? I mean,
here's the problem, as we've mentioned, none of these NFC teams really look good on at all at this point.
Crazy.
Honestly, you want to say the AFC Championship is the Super Bowl? I'll take it. That is my Super Bowl right there.
I mean, it's crazy because for years the NFC was better, but it's not this year. But yeah,
no, it's really taking a step back.
We know Russell Wilson's good, but their passing game has struggled. I mean, 20 to. I mean, I know that. Look, I know the Rams defense is good. I know it's a division rivalry, and the Rams defense is good. But I just
they're taking a huge step back after this Jets loss.
Really,
this Jets loss fucked them so hard that they could probably miss the. I don't think they can miss the playoffs. Actually, I think they are. No, they could probably miss the playoffs. Sadly.
Are we talking about the Rams now?
I've switched to the Rams real quick. I mean, Seahawks, we've said that all can be said. They already won the title. They won the division title. They're the 3rd seed. They can win the first round bye, but the Packers and Saints need to lose. Like I said, I'll go into scenarios later. But when you've completely switched your motto for the year, you can't move the ball anymore on offense, but you could stop everyone on defense. Are we going to see a good switch again for the Seahawks in this playoff run? But the Rams seem to have more on the line here, sadly, because of who they are. Sorry, I'm just gonna let that fly.
Jared Goff is not looking good, and he's hurt, so we're gonna see another nobody start next week. Who's starting? Do you even know who's starting for the Rams next week?
No, I have no idea who their backup is.
It is. Hold on, Rams quarterback. John Wolford.
So John Wolford.
This is funny. Rams film room. John Wolford gives LA plenty of hope at QB. Don't you love just homers that need to be optimistic no matter what?
That sounds like some bullshit.
He undrafted out of Wake Forest. So again, I want the Colin Kaepernick haters to look me in the eye in a week when John Wolford, Taylor Heineke, and who do we know who's starting for the Cardinals?
No, I have no idea. Honestly, we probably even see fucking Blaine Gabbert and Matt Schaub starting.
Yeah, I mean, look me in the eye and tell me that Kaepernick's not good to be a backup, good enough that he's better than all these players. And if you do, you're a clown. That's all I'm saying. But
there's no way Kaepernick is worse than Matt Schaub, John Wolford, or any of these fucking people.
I know it's ridiculous, the mental gymnastics. But anyway, yeah, Jared Goff doesn't look good. The Rams, someone pointed this out on Twitter, and it's the Rams. When they get a lead, they're great. I mean, they're like close to undefeated, which when it's the lead at halftime under Sean McVay. They don't get a lead, and they can't play by their game plan, and they can't do anything. I mean, they're a team that they either get into rhythm on offense and they get a lead, or they just don't. But I don't think Sean McVay is blameless, but I do think the quarterback's the biggest issue here. But they got to play the NFC East early this year, and that
helped them. I got them where they were.
Yeah, but I don't expect them to win any playoff games. They could, because they're capable of looking good, but I wouldn't expect it. But yeah, I'm just worried about the Seahawks passing game here. I don't know.
They're going to be a rough outing.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Sunday Night Football. I thought it was going to be a good game. We had a kind of a dud.
Sunday night dud. We got
the Packers completely took the Titans to town, 40-14.
Yeah, the Titans just looked like they weren't ready to play in the snow. I mean, this was a dud. This was another Sunday night dud. This was actually the worst scoring output we've seen from the Titans since Ryan Tannehill took over the job from Marcus Mariota.
Yeah.
It's a bad look for head coach Mike Vrabel. I do think they'll bounce back, but it's a bad look.
It was a bad look. One thing I'm noticing here is I think the Packers might be trying to get away from Aaron Jones, or he might have got hurt, because Aaron Jones only had 10 rushes, while A.J. Dillon had 21 carries.
I was going to say, it was good to see a positive sign from A.J. Dillon, because it's been a little weird to me that the guy you drafted in the second round has been on the bench all year. And I know Aaron Jones is phenomenal, but Rodgers had an easy day, 21-25, 231 40. It was just an easy day. I mean, the Titans ultimately, at the end of the day, I do believe that the Titans are good enough that they will get their offense back on track. But the bigger problem is the defense. They can't win a Super Bowl with this defense.
No, this defense is very, very suspect right now.
It's just too bad. So that's the unfortunate.
It's rough, but I want to see this Titans team succeed.
I do. I like the Titans, but it's just their defense is. Hey, Bam. Hey,
sorry,
girl.
Bambi was she wanted some attention.
She needs some loving.
Yeah, so she'll join us for the podcast. Her and her Falcons fanness.
Sweet doggy. I'm all alone without my doggy in DC. So you're
Yeah,
like,
no, but when it comes to this Titans team, like unfortunately this defense, they're definitely very lackluster. Okay, very lackluster on what they can do. So I mean, unfortunately, yes, this is not really a Super Bowl caliber defense.
yeah, and they lost Logan Ryan to my Giants, which probably hurt them.
And I saw Giants did sign Logan Ryan to an extension.
Yes, they did, which was a good move. They lost Jason McCourty a few years back. They lost I think they lost
Jarrell Casey to the Broncos.
well Casey. Yeah, they'd have some work to do in the draft.
They got Vic Beasley.
Yeah, I mean Beasley. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's nothing.
So, but I would like to talk about the MVP race because
Hold on, we got one more game, and then we can talk right about that real quick. Ow, ow.
you don't want me to talk about it now because it's about Aaron Rodgers.
Just 1 second, just because let's just do the Bills real quick because we got it. We'll just talk about both quarterbacks in a second.
Okay.
But the Bills destroyed the Patriots 38-9. I mean, if that doesn't show you what this Bills team is now, I don't know what will.
Or what the Patriots team has become.
Yeah, like this, both teams have already cemented. I mean, all right, Cam Newton went 5 of 10 for 34 yards. Jared Stidham went 4 of 11 for 44 yards. That's already telling you that this team has given up.
Yeah, they're bad. I mean, they have work to do. Belichick has work to do if he's up to the job. There's been some frustration from Belichick this year because he's not used to coaching a losing team. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, we've talked about how bad their receivers are. Now the defense all of a sudden doesn't look good either.
Unfortunately, even with Brady, this team would not have made the playoffs. So I think we lost a little
Get
bit.
over the fact that earlier this season on Sunday night, Cam Newton went into Seattle, almost threw for 400 yards, and threw a career high number of yards to Julian Edelman. That same player now struggles to even throw for 100 yards. So it's just amazing to me. And unfortunately, Stidham doesn't look like he's the answer either. No, it's not a big enough sample size. But when we've seen him this year, he has not looked good, and we've seen him in a few games. So they need to draft someone. And
yeah, so he's not the answer. It's going to be rough.
But the Bills, man, finally again, great to see turning of the tide after years of domination by the Patriots in this rivalry. The Bills kind of established that they are the new. And look, Josh Allen is throwing the football with a lot of confidence right now. I don't know if you saw these highlights. He threw the ball into some really tight windows.
Yeah, he's definitely taking that next step on his part.
His arm, you talk about Matthew Stafford, Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. His arm is as strong as any of those guys. I mean, he flicks it. I mean, it doesn't even look like he's trying to throw the ball. I mean, he just flicks it, and it comes out differently. I mean,
it really does.
He has just high level arm talent, and combine that with the confidence that he's playing with to fit into tight windows. I wouldn't want to play the Bills in the playoffs right now.
I would not either. It's gonna be dangerous.
And especially considering they also have a kicker that has come on late and can hit from 50, 55 plus, and they can run the ball when they want to. Stephon Diggs is having a phenomenal year. Barkley, good old Matt Barkley got some time. I would have loved to see Jake.
They had all their quarterbacks really step in today.
I have an uncle who's a Patriots fan who posts on Twitter when they're playing a lot, and he summed it up well, and he said, our punter looks really good, which is true, by the way. Jake Bailey is having a phenomenal year. But
yeah, he really is.
That's about as much as you can say for the Patriots. But, congratulations to the Bills. Excited to see what they can do in the playoffs. And, man, what a leap Josh Allen has made. I don't think it's unusual for a guy to be as bad as he was his first 2 years and then
to really kick it up.
Be as good as he is now. I mean, I think it's just a credit to him as an individual and the accuracy. I mean, you don't see guys improve their accuracy in the NFL.
No, they really don't. Like this is a huge step for him.
It's weird. He's kind of, watching him play. It's almost like, he's sort of like a white Cam Newton at his best. I mean,
yeah, I'm with it.
That's sort of what people thought Cam Newton could be, is this dual threat quarterback that had a ridiculous arm. And I think, Cam Newton had that one great year, but ultimately, his ceiling now for Josh Allen is higher than Cam Newton's was. So
yeah.
I just love to see it. I love to see new teams. I love to see guys that weren't good be good. I just think it's cool.
All right, so I know you were talking about it before. Let's get into this MVP talk real quick.
Yeah, so I mean, it's most people sort of implicitly understand that it's between Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, but there's a perception. I mean, I've read a ton of Twitter arguments, but also just among the kind of announcers and the hive mind of the NFL that Aaron Rodgers is the leader in this race, and I have issue with that. And I think the MVP has always been more about narrative than it has about success, and especially people tend to weigh later season performances heavily. So I think this is a good week when you had Aaron Rodgers in a national game play well, where Mahomes struggled against the Falcons, but yeah, I mean, I thought, again, I think narratives tend to take hold. I think Carson Palmer should have won in 2015. I thought Peyton Manning should have won in 2012. I mean, I could give you all sorts of examples, but I think it has. I assume you're still in agreement. We'll talk about it, but I think it has to still be Patrick Mahomes because they're both playing great. And again, none of this is to denounce Aaron Rodgers because he's having his best year since 2014 and he's been phenomenal. But the Kansas City Chiefs are 14-1, and they've played a far tougher schedule. I mean, they've went on the road to beat the Raiders, to beat Tampa. They went on the road to beat Miami. They went on the road to beat the Saints. They went on the road to beat the Ravens. I mean, I actually hold on. I had a record. Yeah, Chiefs now. Well, this isn't about the road wins. They did set a record for most road wins. They now extend the NFL record with 7 straight wins by fewer than 7 points. We talk about how good Mahomes has been as a closer this year, and the fact that like they get in the 4-minute drill and he's succeeded in every single game to close out the game for them. I'm not sure that has as much to do with value as I can think of. I think when you look at the Green Bay Packers, you cannot, as much as you want to, erase the Tampa Bay game where Aaron Rodgers was 16 of 35 for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. They have 3 losses on the year as opposed to 1. They have not. Aaron Rodgers has not faced anything near the schedule that Mahomes had. I mean, he has just been beating up on really bad competition and struggled at times. I mean, they slept walk against the Panthers. They slept walk against the Jaguars. And he's not having to contribute as much in terms of passing yards when it comes to wins because, they're getting out to big leads and they're running the football so well. I mean, Aaron Jones is having 100-plus yards every week, and the Chiefs have not run the ball well outside of like 2 games this year. They're asking Mahomes to do a lot more, and he's been more consistent. And the passing yards, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he's hit Aaron Rodgers' yards. Let's see. I don't think he's hit 4,000 yards yet this year. I mean, he is okay. He just hit it. He's barely over 4,000 yards. He's 4,059 yards, where Patrick Mahomes has, I think, like 700 more yards than him. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has let's see. Patrick Mahomes has now thrown for 4,700 yards. So just a lot more value to the position. He's winning more. He's doing it against tougher defenses. He's winning at crucial times. He's contributing more to his offense. So I don't know. I don't think there's any argument. I mean, the only argument is that Rodgers has like 5 more touchdowns on the year, something like 44 to 39 or 41. But he was also on track to set a record from passing touchdowns from the 1-yard line, and they're doing it on 1st and 2nd down. So that's really just taking away carries from your running back. So, again, and I just Googled Aaron Rodgers. It came up, ESPN, Aaron Rodgers passes Patrick Mahomes as favorite to be MVP. Again, that just pisses me off because I don't think there's an argument for that, and I just hate when people throw these narratives. Like, what's the argument that Rodgers has been more valuable than? I mean, yes, Mahomes has better receivers. So what? He also has played a tougher schedule, has thrown it more in key situations, and has far more passing yards, and their efficiency stats are pretty much similar. So. What's the art? I don't get it, Sam. What's your take on this?
My take, so I agree with you. I think Patrick Mahomes is definitely more of an MVP this year than Aaron Rodgers. I think, yes, you're right with a tougher schedule. Just he has to do more. He's been asked to do more than Aaron Rodgers this year. Aaron Rodgers, he was able to rely on Aaron Jones. He's able to rely on A.J. Dillon last night or on Sunday night for his game. I feel like just the way it is just I feel like that Mr. Rodgers here is not doing what Patrick Mahomes is doing. I think Mahomes really does deserve the MVP in this case. Like, he just does more. He might have more receivers and weapons around him, but he's definitely tossing it more. And I feel like if Patrick Mahomes wasn't there, he definitely would be more missed than if Aaron Rodgers wasn't there.
Yeah, and again, we've seen the Packers offense go to sleep against Carolina and against Jacksonville. I mean, and they have more wins. The Chiefs are 14-1, and the Packers have 3 losses. And again, you can't. It's a full season award. You can't just ignore the Tampa game. So And again, Mahomes again, he hasn't really had a bad game this year. I mean, the closest he had to a bad game was the Falcons, but even in his bad games, he still throws game-winning touchdowns and he still plays. Yeah, yeah. By Yeah. So again, I think it's I really hate it when narratives overtake reality in the NFL. I think it's got to be just like Aaron Rodgers is just has it. It must just be his reputation, right? I mean, people. I mean, what else? Yeah. So I'm glad we're in agreement on that because that one's been bugging me. And again, I'm happy for Aaron Rodgers because he took a huge step forward this year and he needed to for his career. Having a great season, but it's just the value compared to what Mahomes has done for the Chiefs just it's just not the same. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't totally follow all that, but I think it's amazing. It's amazing to me that the Colts are probably going to be an 11-win team and miss the playoffs. I think it just shows. And again, they had some key losses they shouldn't have had, but still 11-5 is 11. I mean, we've seen the Patriots with 11, 12 wins, have first round buys. So I think it just shows how strong the AFC has become this year, and I think it's better for the sport. It really is. Now, what who controls their own destiny? Yeah. Okay, got so everyone in the hunt can get in. Hmm. Well, the Colts, I guess that's because they're looking for the wild card spot because the Titans took the division. Um, oh, right. Well, if they win, they'll take the division. Um, and that really comes back to I think that Titans matchup where the Colts were without Jonathan Taylor, and I think without DeForest Buckner too, that really hurt them. Uh, But yeah, I mean, I think again a lot of new faces. I mean, the Chiefs again. I think it's amazing to me that we're talking about a 14-1 team, led by Patrick Mahomes, and that is doing things in terms of tight wins and in terms of schedule that are just kind of deep, and that we're not talking about him as the MVP. I mean, that's just crazy to me again. But a lot of new teams here. I'm happy the NFL is changing because I think it's better. I mean, the Chiefs, we know they're going to be a dynasty. The Bills, we talked about Josh Allen. The Steelers, they've been around for a bit, but the defense is better than it's been in the past, even if the offense isn't. The Titans, we've talked about it. At their the defense is going to be their Achilles heel, but at their peak, they're really good. Tannehill had a turnaround. Vrabel has generally been pretty good, even though he's had his hiccups at times. The Dolphins are a new, again, we haven't seen the AFC East. The AFC East was never this good when Brady was there for everyone that wants. And right, and for all the Patriots fans that want to talk about, try to defend the AFC East, it's like you had no competition, and of course, once Brady leaves, now you have the competition. But Dolphins, we'll see what happens with this quarterback controversy. Like I said, I think that's just totally up in the air. And the Ravens, I said, outside of their passing game, they are an elite team and an elite. I think all these teams are really. I mean, I think again, like you said, I think even the Colts are, you could say, are deserving of a spot. Again, it's unfortunate that like you said, the NFC, it's you wish this stuff wasn't so set in stone because you have this years where one conference is so much better than the other conference that it's like in the AFC there are 8 teams that probably should be in, where in the NFC, you can at best, and even those teams are not the iteration they've been in the past. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Did we figure out who's starting for the Cardinals yet? Let me see if I can find this real quick. Kingsbury mum on Kyler Murray injury status. Who is backup? Let's see. Well, you have Trevler. Uh, I don't know what his first name is. You have to tell me that because I've never heard. Cardinals Trevler. I'll look him up. Um, yeah. Uh, yeah. What do I have to do? This should be an easy Google search. Okay, Cardinals roster. I have to go to the roster now. Not yeah, not the baseball Cardinals. Jesus Christ. Uh, no, not the St. Louis. Okay, here we go. Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals player roster. Position. Scroll down. Running back, wide receiver. Uh, QB. Chris Strebler. Okay, Chris Strebler. Let's see if he has a Wikipedia page, and if he doesn't, that's not a good sign, Sam. Uh, he does have a Wikipedia page. Oh my God! Look, bro, look here. Look at the picture on his Wikipedia page. He looks like a oh my God. It's him holding. So he won the Grey Cup, which is the Canadian Football League trophy, but he's holding his trophy with a shirt open. He looks like a fucking like Southern country guy. He doesn't look good. Undrafted out of South Dakota. Sam, do we have 3 or 4 undrafted quarterbacks starting over Kaepernick? I mean, this is fucking ridiculous. Okay. So anyway, Strebler would be ahead of Brett Hundley on the depth chart. That took me so long I don't even remember what we're talking about. Anyway, the Cardinals. So they do not control their own destiny. That's okay. So for the NFC East, the Washington football team is playing the Eagles. You said. Well, let's just go over that. So essentially, here, what's going on is just to be clear here, the Washington football team, if they win, they're in because despite the fact that the Giants swept them, if they win, they will have a better record than the Giants, so they will win the East. Um, yeah, if the Giants if the right, so if they're winning in if they lose, the winner of Cowboys Giants are in. Correct? Okay, so both of them needs help. The Cardinals need help. We're not really sure why. Uh, the Rams are winning in. Um, this is going to be a terrible. There's so many backups. Sorry. Okay, but let me talk about the guys that are in. So just like the AFC is as strong as it's been in years, the NFC is as weak as it's been in years, and all the teams that are in. are a lot of them have had better teams in the past. I mean, the Packers, cruising on an easy schedule, but same old questions. Can they beat the big boys? Or will and I think the answer until we see that they can, that's a question mark. And even I don't think having home field advantage in Lambeau is as big as people think because we've seen them have a ton of home playoff losses. Even in the snow, I don't think the snow is. I mean, they lost in the snow. I think if anything, the snow might have helped them in the past, but I think now that they're a passing team, it actually hurts them a little bit. I think the only way it helps them is that like occasionally you have opponents play horribly in the snow, like the Titans did, but that's not going to happen in the playoffs. So they are. I think they're a fairly weak one seed. The Saints, I mean, we've talked about them. I think they're in a good direction. They're playing as well as they are given the situation. But I think when you combine the loss of Michael Thomas with Drew Brees' arm right now, I think they're not as good as they were last year. I think the Seahawks are again. This is probably they're the same old Seahawks, right? They're struggling on offense, and then the Bucks, are doing everything against bad defenses, and we don't know how they're going to fare against. But the NFC might just be bad enough that all these teams are so average that anyone else could win. And then in the hunt, we talked about Washington already. They have a great defense, but they can't throw the football. The Rams can't throw the football. The Bears, you know, Bears can't throw the football. I mean, the Cardinals can throw the football at times, but other times they can't. So this is as bad as the NFC has been in years, Sam. I mean, who is I mean, who's good? I mean, I guess the Packers and Saints are both probably the best on the list, but they both have questions. And the Saints, without without home field advantage throughout, I mean, I guess the Saints, are trending up, but without home field advantage throughout the playoffs, I don't trust their passing game on the road. Yeah, yeah, yes, sir. So Miami needs to win, and they're in. Yeah, so that's the other thing. Not only are you going to have a ton of backups start this week, you're also going to have teams resting their starters because in the past, when you had a bye week, Sam, it didn't always behoove you to rest your starters in week 17 because we've seen a lot of teams look really rusty after 2 weeks off. But now that no one has buys, you want the week off. So I think the Bills probably rest their starters. So I'll take Miami, whichever quarterback it ends up being. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Easy win. Well, the Okay, yeah, the Steelers are in. You're right. Well, here's the thing. Because of their history and because of the fact that they just lost, I feel like it would be so Browns of them to blow this. But if the Steelers are resting their starters on the road, you're right. I have to take Cleveland here. Yeah. Stafford's probably not starting, so I'll take the Vikings to get a meaningless win to get Kirk Cousins back to you know 7-9 or whatever he is. Um, I am. Yo, Sam, I gotta go to the bathroom really bad. Can we come back to this? Okay. No, you don't want to pause. All right, let's just finish it out then. Okay, sorry. No, no, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, Jets and Patriots. Uh, who care? I'll just. Yeah, why not? Why not? Jets. No, the Giants can't score, and the Cowboys look good on offense. And frankly, I don't want the Giants to win because I don't want them in the playoffs. Yes. Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be more false hope for the Bears. Yeah, Sam. Yeah, I'll take the Raiders. Colts. They tend to play well with the backups, but I'll take the Chargers. Oh, geez. Yeah, I'll take the Rams as well. Yep, me too. Well, they're probably resting their starters, right? Yeah, I'll take Carolina. Titans. I think so too. Yeah, I'll just do it. Yeah, I'll just do it real quick. Yeah, you can find me at my blog. That's footballck.wordpress.com. You can also find me at lafbnetwork.com. Yeah,
Gary, as always, thank you for joining me. I'll let you go, Pooh.
Sam, I appreciate that. Yeah, this is coming down to the wire. Looking forward to seeing how things play out, and then I guess I'll be back and we'll talk. Oh, and we also got a college football playoff semifinals on New Year's Day as well as the New Year's Six games. So be sure to check those out. And yeah, I'll be back with you next week. Sounds good, buddy.
Good to always have him around. Thank you for coming and listening. Just as a quick heads up, on New Year's Day, as he mentioned, yes, there's going to be college football playoff, but we will be starting our Till the Whistle gaming. We're going to be doing a lot of gaming stuff over there. It's going to be on the same channel. We're going to put it on its own playlist, but we recorded the first video already. It's scheduled to go on New Year's Day. It'll launch. We'll definitely give you an update when that happens. Keep an eye out. Make sure to look at us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff, and we will catch you next week for Wild Card Weekend.